Microsoft have just had one of their greatest E3 showcases ever, and as cliche as it may sound, they really did have something for everyone. The conference was firmly game orientated with very little on-stage presentations, as Phil Spencer churned out exclusives and world premieres one after the other. Now, if the game wasn't exclusive to a Microsoft platform, then it probably was the first time you'd seen it. Coupled with the acquisition of 4 studios and the development of a brand new one, this is a clear reaction from Microsoft acknowledging their lack of impactful exclusives lately by doubling down on building their own catalogue of developers similar to Sony's. This actually positions Microsoft in an interesting place against Sony. They're directly competing in the console space, but they've already got a leg up in the PC market. Lately, they've been shifting focus so that most of their exclusive games, if not all, are on Windows 10, and a lot of them are part of the Play Anywhere initiative, meaning that if you buy it on one platform, you get it on both. So let's go over some of the biggest announcements at the conference, starting off with world premieres. The conference kicked off with the announcement of a new Halo game, Halo Infinite, showcasing a new engine and announcing it as a Windows 10 and Xbox exclusive. Very little else in terms of information was given here, which I think was a bit of a letdown considering the caliber of the franchise. It felt like a conference closer rather than an opener in terms of its sparse information. We were left wanting to know more, and I think with the amount of PCs on stage, the expectation was that a big multiplayer match would be played out for us to see. Next up, we have the world premiere of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, a Souls-like game from the developer behind Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Set for 2019, Sekiro will be available on Windows PC, PS4 and Xbox One. Now, I'm not a Souls fan, but this setting has me the most interested out of all the From Software titles in recent years. I'll need to see if it's a game I can get into, but the aesthetic of this one looks absolutely fantastic. Developer Techland took to the stage to announce Dying Light 2, a parkour open-world zombie game set in a decaying city. This one caught me by surprise in terms of just how good it looks. I played the original Dying Light a little bit before, and this game seems to just build on its predecessor. The world looks fantastic, with vegetation growing on the rooftops and reclaiming the city. The traversal, obviously in a pretty planned demo, looks smooth and really dynamic, as the player leaps from windows to rooftops to billboards and lands on moving trucks and stuff like that. The big focus on stage for this game was choices and how they affect the world around you. I'm not sure of many other open world games that react to the player on the scale presented in Dying Light 2. It'll remain to be seen how big of an impact these changes really have, affecting the overall narrative or if they're just largely aesthetic changes. It gave me Frostpunk vibes when choosing to side with or against the paramilitary group to protect the water. Good choices can have negative results. This one is definitely to keep on your radar. Coming to PC, Xbox and PS4. The next big reveal was Forza Horizon 4. Now, the Horizon series is the more arcadey version of Forza, a little bit more over the top typically with helicopter chases and a wide variety of terrain and vehicle classes. It seems to be going the route of games like The Crew with a seamless shared world experience, and it's set in the United Kingdom with dynamic weather. Now, the biggest selling point of this game is that it's included on the Xbox Game Pass on the same day of release on October 2nd of this year. So for $10 you can try out the game for a month. Now, I think that is an absolutely huge deal. As someone who enjoys racing games but doesn't typically play them for more than maybe 10 hours or so, the Game Pass makes this a great deal. Rounding out the trinity of exclusives, Gears 5 was announced after a pretty playful tease that I honestly thought was doing to Gears what EA did to Command & Conquer. But thankfully, Microsoft don't seem to be that out of touch with their fans and actually had, again, something for everyone. Announcing the mobile game Gears Pop, the strategy game Gears Tactics, and the full-on Gears you know, Gears 5. Interestingly, they dropped the of War from the title, which I thought was just a bit odd. We don't know much about Gears Tactics other than it's a turn-based game, something like in the vein of an XCOM, set 12 years before Gears of War 1, and it will be a PC-only title, which is nice because it means there won't be any console concessions made, like we see all the time with games such as Halo Wars. Gears 5 itself looks pretty neat. I never owned an Xbox, but I did play Gears 2 and 3 in co-op, and always enjoyed the gory cover-based gameplay and the giant boss fights. The game looks to have more of that, so that seems pretty cool, but I was a bit lost in the story, and chat at the time were questioning how Marcus was alive and the timeline of the whole thing. Graphically, it looks stunning. I feel like Gears games are the best showcase for Unreal technology. The Division 2 got its reveal with a lengthy gameplay demo. Sticking with the traditional 4-man squad play of the Division 1, the Division 2 introduced a lot of new gadgets and mission types, but for me, I found it a little bit hard to get interested in it because it just looks so similar to the first game. This one is set in Washington DC and will have fighting in and around famous monuments and government buildings, but the arcadey, bullet spongy nature of the co-op grindy shooter do remain there. And no doubt this is great with friends, but it's just never been the type of game to interest me, despite its setting being the kind of thing I would love. Now, on a technical level, the game looked really impressive, but of course, it could be subject to the traditional Ubisoft downgrades that we're used to seeing. Some other reveals I won't touch on too long was Just Cause 4, seemingly running out of ideas on how to make it more over the top. It seems like they'll just add massive hurricanes and storms every now and then. These games are just pure fun, and I think Crackdown was severely undermined by the announcement of this game, which seems to do everything Crackdown does but better. Jump Force, aside from having the worst name ever, looks pretty fun, though not at all my kind of game. It's a mashup of Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, so expect to see crazy over-the-top fights set in some sort of metropolis. Devil May Cry 5 got announced and looks like a pretty fun time, but again, they're not bringing in Dante as the main playable character for whatever reason. The trailer felt a little bit cheesy, but the gameplay in there looked extremely smooth and fluid. Release is set for 2019 on Xbox, PC and PS4 with that one. There's also the announcement of a new Battletoads game, but literally no other details other than that and a 2019 release, so not much to go on there. There's a new Ori game which had an awesome aesthetic and music, but again, not for me personally. And finally, there was Captain Spirit, the first episode in a new Life is Strange spin-off, which will be free to download on June 26th. I played and really enjoyed Life is Strange, but this game just looks super cheesy and does not interest me at all based on its premise and its main characters. Lastly, there was a new game revealed called Session, which is a skating game, but we didn't get any other details. So those were the games that we didn't otherwise know about, a lot of reveals. Now let's move on to something we had heard about but we got more information of at Microsoft's conference. The first and best showcase at the conference, in my opinion, was our first look at Cyberpunk 2077. We just got an in-engine trailer and a little bit of information after, but no release date or much gameplay details. There's really not much more to say other than it looks absolutely fantastic. The class divide in the cyberpunk setting, from dingy back alleys with prostitutes and people getting beaten up, to the fancy high-rise hotels where the rich do some crazy augments and drugs. Every scene was packed with interesting sci-fi futuristic stuff, portrayed in a fairly realistic manner. It's not a utopia or a dystopia, it's a grounded take on it, and I love everything that I saw. The next best thing for me was Metro Exodus. Artyom is back and this gameplay trailer has Metro looking better than ever. There seems to be much bigger focus on the outdoors and a wider breadth of exploration rather than the linear tunnel crawler that was Metro Last Light. There's also some cool gun customization, weather changes, new enemies, and new ways to traverse the environment. We also got the release date of February 22nd, 2019, which is shaping up to be quite the month for gaming. Kingdom Hearts 3 brought Elsa Gate to Xbox and is getting a 29th of January release date. Obviously this is quite the cult following behind it, and while graphically it does look really nice, the trailer I thought was pretty awful with weird audio cutting in and out and strange cuts between heavy moments and action scenes. Shadow of the Tomb Raider received a new trailer, and luckily this time the game was not nabbed up as an exclusive, instead arriving on all platforms on September 14th of this year. I don't have much opinion on this one. Graphically, again, this game is an absolute jaw-dropper, and I've enjoyed the previous ones, but I didn't see anything new here that made me think I really needed it day one. Crackdown was finally showed as well, with Terry Crews being the star protagonist. To me, the game looks kinda dated and felt kinda cringy. Not something I can get hyped about when the games like Just Cause 4 basically just do the same thing. I think it was a rather disappointing trailer, but it did get its release slated for February 2019. And that's basically it. We did get to see some announcements like DLC for Cuphead and Sea of Thieves, more info about PUBG on Xbox and the Game Pass, and Black Desert Online coming to Xbox later in the year, as well as some Battlefield story trailer, which is a tiny little snippet of information there. Now, like I said, even though probably like 70% of this stuff wasn't for me, there was just so many reveals and genres of games that I think Microsoft have done an excellent job at stepping back into the forefront and showing gamers that they care about making great experiences on their platforms. The conference had a minimal amount of cringe, which is always good, and its disappointments, for me at least, were outweighed by the reveal of big titles. Not going to be buying an Xbox anytime soon, but as a PC-orientated gamer, I will be looking into the Game Pass and keeping an eye on the Gears Tactics game, as well as some of the multi-platform stuff they showed as well. Unfortunately, I would have thought with something like a Gears Tactics being showed, I was hoping just for a little bit of a trailer for Age of Empires 4, which of course is being published by Microsoft, but it was absent from the conference, which is typically dominated by console-orientated games. So yeah, solid conference. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think it was great. I don't think it was excellent or a masterpiece, which would be by like 9 or a 10, just because it didn't really have any of those mic drop moments where I was genuinely like surprised or blown away by what they were showcasing. For me, the interesting thing to see here is that Microsoft is getting in such a good position with fans again, and by developing and acquiring new studios, they're planting the seeds now for their next Xbox to be full of exclusives, though they are many smaller developers, but with time they could grow to be big budget AAA games that command a lot of attention. Anyways, I know I'm a bit late to making a video for these conferences. I hadn't actually planned on doing it, only for I got multiple requests to do so. But hopefully, if you like these videos, I'll try to get them out faster for Bethesda, PC Gamer Show, and Sony. I might do Ubisoft if I've got time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you pretty soon.